Good morning. Good morning from Melbourne, Australia. Good evening to friends in the United States. I know it's the middle of the night over in Europe, but maybe you're catching me on replay. That would be great. I'm going to jump in here. Good morning, Roseanne, or good evening to you. We'll get this out of the way. So today I'm mostly focusing on a technique which is using colored pencils on crumb cake cardstock. That's the crumb cake, but I'm doing it because I was prompted by the Casing Tuesday challenge that got posted last night, and this is the card that she posted to Case. You may remember a couple weeks ago I did her challenge, which had this one, but today it's this one, and I have a couple of ideas for it. One is going to be pretty close to what's actually in the catalog, and the technique they're using is they're using some watercolor pencils. Sorry, I can't talk here. Watercolor pencils on crumb cake, and I thought, ooh, I haven't done that for those guys, so we'll do that. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the time change. Well, we've got it for about 6 months now. So the stamp set that is used in the catalog with this is the Forever Blossoms once again, and we're going to do this big spray of flowers here. I have it mounted up, and they used the Saddle Brown Stays on ink to do it. So put a little bit of that on there and go ahead and stamp that down. Cool. Okay. Gonna let that dry just a moment there. And so Stampin' Up's watercolor pencils, they come in two different sets. And I have both sets, and I've combined them here, and plus I have some extras, so sorry I can't quite tell you what's in which one, but the catalog has them. So I could tell you if I just pulled out my catalog. Color collections, coloring tools, here we go. Okay, so here you go. Here's the two watercolor pencil sets, and the watercolor pencils has 13 colors, and then there are 10 more in watercolor pencils assortment 2. And like I said, I've got both sets in here, plus there have been a kit or two that have some pencils in there, so I have a few extras in there. But here we go. We're going to pull out some pinks, the white, some greens. Yeah, the ones that don't have labels on them are the ones I think were in kits. But okay, and I'll have a sharpener in case I need it. We may do a little sampling on the back side here. Get a sense of the colors. I don't know how much you can see. I may try do a little light adjustment maybe, and maybe try zooming in a little bit. See how, whoops. See if I can get it. There we go. A little more light adjustment maybe. I don't know. Hello. Okay, so what was that one? That one was Melon Mambo. I'm just making a little swatch and a note to myself here about which one is which. So as I go, I'll know what's what. Apparently can't decide how to put those. Okay, so to do this, what a lot of people talk about doing is starting with your lightest color towards the outside edge. So I'm just doing some Whisper White here. I'm trying not to cover up the stamping itself. And then something to keep in mind is because these are watercolor pencils, as we go, if we want to, we can be blending some color. We can be blending the colors together if we want with, sorry, I'm concentrating on coloring and can't talk. With a blender pen or an aqua painter, or if you don't have either of those, if you have even just a little kiddo watercolor brush and just get it barely damp. Okay, I'm gonna try adding in some color, I think, here. And I think I'm going to pause right there for a second, and I'm going to stamp a second one, because maybe we'll do a little bit of looking at what the difference is if we blend versus we don't blend. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong there. I think it's just a different look. So I'm going to stamp on that side, I think. And again, this is the Forever Blossoms set with the Saddle Brown Stays On ink. Let me grab, I think, a blender pen, because it's less wet than an aqua painter. And since this is crumb cake and not watercolor paper, I think we want to limit the amount of water we're doing there. That's the Flirty Flamingo. Okay, let me add some of that in there. And I am letting that dry for just a moment here before I start in on coloring that one too. We're going to kind of do them in tandem here, I think. See how much you can see here. Okay, now I'm going to do a little bit on this one. And feel free to ask questions. I can see your comments. And I'm setting down the white. I don't know that you have to do it over the whole petal. But I am. And I guess that way I don't have to worry about exactly where I'm putting the rest of my color. So if you've been watching, you know that I love to use my Stampin' Blends, the alcohol markers, for quick and easy coloring. And this is kind of the antithesis of that. This is not, well, this is pretty easy, but it's not as quick. You know, each stroke is smaller. Whoops, I wanted to do it this way. And it just takes a little bit more time to get the color and do the blending and all of that stuff. So no less fun, just a different look, a different technique. Okay, and then I wanted to add some of this in the middle areas. Okay, so this is the one I'm going to try doing some blending. Now, a blender pen, it's got a liquid in it that, it's not just water. I've made homemade refill for it. It's got water and some glycerin and I think some alcohol in it. So this kind of smooths out and blends these colors together. And then to clean off your pen, you just scrub it on your scrap paper until it's clear. I'm gonna do a little more on this one. So the one that's not blended, I think, has a little more texture, if you will. They do not sell the refill. If you Google it, you can come up with recipes for homemade, and it lasts a very long time. And you just pull out, let me see here. Basically, you just pull out the tip, ta-da, and you can use an eyedropper to drop fluid in there. You can soak the tip in it, and you just push the tip back in. Yeah, I mean, you can always buy new blender pens, but I'm keeping it real here. The refill is pretty easy to make and works well. A lot of times I think the Stampin' Up! Pens come, at least for a while, they were coming a little drier than was really useful. So being able to add some liquid was a good thing. Yeah. Making sure I get the right colors in the right place here. So you can do kind of more feathery strokes when it's with the pencils than you can with something like a marker or the Stamp and Blend markers. And that's nice. Again, I'm not sure how much detail. You can see pretty well. And just going in with a deeper, a little bit more red tone there. I think you can actually get a little more subtle shading and such using the pencils. Okay. Because I'm blending this one, I'm not so worried about kind of, you can see I'm more, I want to say scrubbing the color on. I'm just rolling it on as opposed to so much of the stroking like that, because I am going to be blending it all. So this would make it faster in that sense, but again, you're going over it a couple times. Okay. Let's try a couple leaves here. Again, I think we're going to start with a little bit of white at the edges at least. I think there was any difference in those two. A little bit, yeah. So, again, this is, I'm playing along with the Casing Tuesday again. We are casing sketch from the mini catalog on page 16. It's this card right here. And so far I'm using the same image, but they also colored with colored pencils on Crumb Cake, but I'm doing a slightly different, I don't know if style is really the word for it, but I'm going to try this leaf slightly differently. I'm going to just lightly go over it. With this is my unlabeled that I think is supposed to be Old Olive, but it's a slightly different tone than this one. We'll try a little white after that, just to sort of highlight a little bit maybe. Yeah, I like that a little better, maybe. Okay, so let's try it with the blender side. So I'm doing it two different ways. This one I'm putting, I stamped the image in StazOn Saddle Brown, and I've just applied Stampin' Up's watercolor pencils to it, blending colors together, just with the just sort of layering lighter to darker colors and feathering them out. And then on this one I'm doing basically the same thing, except I'm using a blender pen to then blend the watercolor pencil together. So I've done a couple flowers, and I'm going to do the leaves now, and I'm trying to basically apply the color in a very similar way and then blend them, and we'll see the difference in the effect. This one I have a feeling I know it's gonna yeah, the pencils haven't come out for me for a long time because I got pretty obsessed with doing things with the Stampin' Blends. But like I said, it's a different look, and it's very satisfying in so many ways. I think this one, the white's gonna wait until after we've done some blending. And one reason, especially if you're using the blender pen, you want to be sure to use that stays on, is that then the ink won't smudge. Because it is a waterproof ink. If you use any of our regular classic inks or Memento, it would probably smudge. Yeah. So with the greens and the whites, I think we want to add the white in afterwards. Put a little highlight in there. There we go. So I'm just going to keep going, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do to mount them up at some point. And because the nice thing about this Casing Tuesday is she pulls out the inspiration for you, and then you do what you want. You can be inspired in a totally different direction. You can be inspired to do the same layout, and well, you've seen me do them where I change the orientation, or I change up the colors, change up the stamp set. It's just fun to have something to prompt the creativity. So I encourage you to do one of these challenges, either from Casing Tuesday Facebook group or somewhere else, and not just straight out copy. Obviously, that's got its place. I do it all the time, but it is nice to see where your imagination can take you with a little prompting. So, how is social isolation, social distancing, week, whatever, going for you guys? I know some of you have switched to working from home. Some of you who are at home all the time, like me, it may not have changed that much. I know at least one of you who's been on here this morning, don't know if you're still here or not, has been making masks out of your fabric stash. Thank you very much for helping people that way. Gosh, you know, this makes me feel like I could be an artist, the way it comes out. It's really fun. I encourage you to give this a try. And you know what? If you just have a set of Dummel somebody's pencils, you know, even if it's just Crayolas or no names, pull them out, give them a try. You don't have to have the Stampin' Up! Ones, obviously. They're the best. But, you know, pull stuff out and have fun. That's my mantra right now. Oh, hey, here's a question for you guys. I'm looking at doing some online classes. I have mentioned it the last couple of days in my blog. And for those of you who are in Australia, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the comments here. Anyhow, I wanted to know, for those of you who are in Australia, I'm happy to put together a kit and send it to you in the mail. If you let me know you want one, and we can craft together on Zoom. For those of you who are not in the US or in Australia, I would do a PDF that would give you all the info you would need if you wanted to play along. There would be a charge for that because this is my business, but it would tell you it would tell you the products I'm using and measurements, and you could then supply your own product, and whether it was exactly what I was doing or you could make your own substitutions. Being a PDF, it would get to you right away, so there wouldn't be any shipping issues. And you could craft together on Zoom too. If you're interested in that, let me know either here on comments or send me a message with more questions or whatever, and I will get you hooked up. My first one of these is going to be offered on, that's Saturday the 18th of April my time, which in the US would make it Friday night, but it's not like you're going out and partying right now, right? Just let me know. Okay, so there's that one that is colored but not blended. Whoops, I want to put some white highlights on these leaves, I think. It's kind of subtle. Actually, it's very subtle. To add in the white there. Now we'll finish up this one. It is really easy to set up Zoom, Nikki. Yeah, I'm looking at what you guys are doing. Zoom is really easy, and it's nice because from my end, I can have a workspace like this set up for you guys to see, and you want to see my face, and I can share pictures from on my computer too. I enjoyed doing it. I did an Under My Umbrella class last Saturday for my folks who signed up, and I think we were all pleased with how it went. So so I'm just getting the white base coat, if you will, on these flowers. And then we'll put in some of this one. Just goes faster once you figure out what you're doing. You have to stop and make so many decisions. Wow, I got a lot of friends joining. Nice. Thanks, everybody. Hello to Liz and Vicky in Arizona, and Beck. Hi. Oh, you were watching the PM. Hi, Beck. You're here in Melbourne. Did the PM have anything new for us? I keep waiting for them to announce what stage 4 restrictions are going to be, but so far so good. Hi, Sharon. So, quick recap since a bunch of people just joined us. I'm playing along with the Facebook group Casing Tuesday, where the moderator chooses a card. This week it's this one from one of the catalogs. This is page 16 of the mini catalog, and that is our inspiration for this week's challenge. They did a watercolor pencil on crumb cake technique with this Forever Blossoms image, and so that was my jumping off point. I have done my coloring a little bit differently than they have. Actually, I'm doing 2 versions of it. This one is watercolor pencils without any blending except blending the pencils together and sort of layering the colors. And then on this one, I'm doing the same coloring, but then I'm using a blender pen to blend the colors together, and it makes 2 different looks. It's sort of a variation on the technique, and I started with the lightest color, which here is white, and then I went to Flirty Flamingo, and this is an unlabeled. I think this is technically also supposed to be Flirty Flamingo, but it's not quite the same color, and perhaps it wasn't ever actually labeled a particular color. It came in a kit. So what I did was I actually made on this one some swatches of the different colors so I could pick out what I wanted to do. And then again, I've got 2 different colors of green, and I'm coloring it in, and we'll blend it out with the blender pen. Putting in some veins here with a slightly darker. There we go. Here's my blender pen. So I'm going to start here. That just kind of smooths it out a bit. There we go. And now I'm going to clean off that blender pen tip. There we go. You can see the fluid is clear now. Even though the tip is stained, it's not putting color on my paper, so I'm free to go and blend up my greens without pulling in. Okay, now I think I do want to Vicki, I've been thinking about you because we've been trying to rescue a dog here, and lots of people have, because of course they're home and they want a companion. We've been trying for a bit before then too, and we keep getting passed over, in large part because when they find people who have yards, they prefer that for the dogs, which I understand. But, you know, some of these dogs that we're going for are quite elderly and would be happy with a short walk and then just snuggling up with us, and don't need a backyard to run around in necessarily. And since we don't have one. Okay, so there are the two different versions. I'm again going to go in and add a little bit of white in there, I think, just for the heck of it. So this one feels a little more watercolor-y. Is that a word? Because they've been blended and it's a little softer. This one has got more texture, almost like it was embroidered. If that makes any sense. More white in there, I think. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to set those aside for a minute and work on other parts of this layout. And figure out some colors and such. So, they used petal pink, but I think I need something a bit deeper than that with the coloring I did. So, you always worry you're going to use too much water and get wavy paper. That's why I really like the blender pen, Roseanne, because they are just barely wet. And the aqua painter is a lot wetter, which is why, yeah, that's why I went with this. If all you have is an aqua painter or a watercolor brush, just have a paper towel in hand and be drying off your brush a lot. But the blender pen is awesome for very low moisture blending. Okay, so I'm walking away to get some cardstock. And what else are we going to use? I'm going to be popping in and out here as I grab some things to do this with. So this is Flirty Flamingo cardstock, and I think that's going to be right with these. One of the colors was actually labeled Flirty Flamingo, like I said. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer here, and I may see if I can zoom out again. That's usually my problem. Once I've zoomed in, I can't zoom out. So, yep, we're going to live with that. And here we go. there's a couple of card bases. And then so when she does the sketch challenge or does these challenges, she puts up a second picture that gives her best approximation of the measurements. And I've shown you before when I've done one of her things. These are her measurements in inches, and then I pull out the equivalent cards in metric, in centimeters. So this is the next level in, actually. So for one of them, I'm going to do it. This is shimmery white cardstock, and what, 13.9 by 9.5. And right, and then this Highland Heather piece, 11.4 by 7, that's this piece. So it's done. And then she had another small cross bit, and I'll need another piece. Sorry, I'm still here. There we go. Okay. Oh, and then another 13.9. Okay, so this one, it's hard to tell in this picture, but it actually is a piece of designer series paper that's got words written on it. And I'm thinking about could use this scripty 3D embossing folder to get that same sort of effect, I think. So, run that through my die cut machine over here. Yep. And I know this is just, I'm gonna grab another embossing folder here. Okay, so this one is the Parisian Flourish, which I think they also used on this card in the catalog. Yeah, the templates they're just great. And in particular, if you're trying to go back and forth, as I often am, between imperial and metric, but that's going to be too long. So this is what we're casing. Okay, I'm still working on it. And I decided I like that effect, so I'm going to do that again on this one. And this time I'm using the plain vellum instead of this shimmery white cardstock, which the vellum is what they used in the catalog picture. I think I'm actually going to swap those. This is the one that I use the blender pen on, and it's a little bit softer, and I'm going to do that with the softer vellum there, I think. And this has got the brighter white, and I'm going to keep that with the shimmery white background. And let's see what else I want to do here, because I'm figuring this out. Well, I know I'm going to need a couple of linen thread bows. Let me find my linen thread here. Hello, linen thread. I know you're in here. Really? There we go. Okay, so let's see what we've got going here. What does it look like with the green vellum on top of the colored flowers? Yeah, it covers it up too much. Well, and I also need, well, I'm supposed to put a sentiment piece on here. So let's figure out what we're doing for that. I I think I know here. Sorry, I'm just, there we go. Okay. Some Whisper White. So they did the Always and Forever, which I think this is a beautiful, beautiful font. They did this Always and Forever, but I don't do nearly so many wedding cards as I do birthday cards. So I'm going to use this Happy Birthday out of Magnolia Blooms. And I'm just figuring out which color to do it in. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Saddle Brown. Ooh. That came out really blotchy. You probably can't see that from there. I'm going to raise it up here a bit so you can see. I'm not happy with that stamp quality. So let's pull out this is Soft Suede Classic ink, and we'll see if it's the photopolymer stamp or the ink. That's better. And I like the color. Okay, so I'm going to grab a die. This is one of the Painted Labels dies. Yep, I think that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm just lining that up on my die cut machine here. One. And two. Yes, I put dimensionals on my lid. You had a good idea with that. So the StazOn inks come with a double lid, and you need the inner one to help keep it wet. And usually what I have done is just dealt with it. but Nikki pointed out that someone had said if you put dimensionals inside your outer lid, it's perfect to hold your inner lid in place, and so now you've got one step, and it is a good thing, and I will be doing it to my black one as well. I just haven't gotten there yet. So thank you for that, Nikki. I learned a lot of stuff when I visited you the other month. So here's one bow. We'll do another one here. Okay. Put that away so I can find it again. And now we're going to figure out how these go together. Okay, so that's going to go on there square, as is that. And I know it's too long. I'm going to trim it off here. I'm just trying to get my angles right. Okay, and the thing to remember about vellum is that you can see the adhesive. So you need to be planning on hiding it. So I often like tear and tape for that because it's pretty easy to do things like this. And I'm just going to use so now I know I can put adhesive under there because that's hidden. And then use some dimensionals, I think, to put this down. Don't know if you've ever watched Bruno Bertucci, Kylie's husband and supporting demonstrator. When he does a card, he like covers the back of it with dimensionals. You know, covers. Okay, so now I know that in here I can put adhesive. And you could use glue if you don't want to use tear and tape. I just like to do this because it's easy and controlled. I'm going to dimensional that one too. They did theirs further up. Of course, they did that further up too. This guy, take a glue dot, and for these little tiny knots on the linen thread, I ball up my glue dot and stick it on the back of the knot. Stick it under. So Beck, I think you might be the one who's got perhaps the youngest kid at home right now of all of us on the online right now. How's it going with you? I know yours is a whirlwind of energy in the best of times. So there's one. Let's see. This one maybe will go together a little faster because I have a better idea of what I'm doing. So again, some vellum. I know maybe Beck signed off or doesn't want to share, which is also just fine. Okay, so this one I can actually use glue. And I don't know if you guys can see the shimmer on this. Or if it just looks like I've used white, which is probably what it looks like. But let me see if I can get the shimmer to show here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it really does add to it. That. I'm gonna do this first. So this one I don't know if you can see it. I moved this screen piece higher and kept this basically in the same place, but so it strikes there lower. We're going to see how that works with the bow. So there are both of those. See you next week, you guys. I think that's what I've done. And I hope you like it. I hope you got some ideas for your pencils. If you try things, if you try this sketch and do your own thing, I'd love to see it. If you try something with your pencils, I'd love to see it. Yeah, I'd like to see what you're working on. So send me pictures. Post them on my Facebook page, and everyone can see them, and that would be fun. So let me know also if you would be interested in getting either a kit in Australia or a PDF to follow along for my Zoom class on Saturday the 18th in Australia, Friday evening the 17th in the US. I will put up a preview of some of the projects, I think, in the next day or so. And then I'd like to know by Friday, Australia time, well, it can be later than that if you're in the US. But if you want a kit, Friday would be great to know because, yeah, I have to put the kits together. And then if you're not local to me and picking them up, I need to post it to you. So. And Australia Post is taking a few extra days because they are social distancing in their sorting centers and what have you. So, yeah, just let me know and I'd be happy to do that for you. And I will see you guys live here next week. Happy crafting. Bye-bye.